And welcome, precious hearts, to Mother Akasha and the Son's weekly Tree of Life class. Mother Akasha has asked that we open the way for her presence immediately, rather than beginning with an opening meditation. And based on her discourse and how receptive we are, she may take us into some healing frequencies throughout this evening. Her discourse is the art of spiritual healing, the principles that are involved, and that misperceptions we all have, and it's time that those misperceptions be cleared. She says everyone who approaches a spiritual path will naturally grow these misperceptions. We should not take it personally. Everyone that is awakened before us has come to this place, and there's a time as to when those misperceptions need to be faced, and they cannot be faced only in our mind. They must be faced in our feeling side of life. And that's all she said. So I welcome you here. Let's take a deep breath. And as I step into my light body, I invite each of you in this minute to connect with your great God presence that abides within you and above you, as we open the way for Mother Akasha to be with us this evening. Beloved hearts, Akasha is with you. It is time for a story. It is time for a deeper understanding. And only by the receptivity that I measure within each of you, and not feeling any oops or desperation, but rather in hearing the words that I seek to share with you, there may be a release from all fear, and realization that we must stop seeking God to be our servant. And how, as we each awaken, we can accidentally and unconsciously and unpurposefully, even if we really look at what we're being and doing and internalizing, that we are actually requesting God to be our servant. And that is not possible. And this conversation can only take place and only be receptive by those who have already walked the mile, begun to awaken themselves and free themselves of the heresy of God beliefs, that God is a vengeful God, God is a judgmental God. Your awakening must have delivered each of you to this place that you are free from such spiritual sabotage, from such religious, superstitious beliefs. And each of you have pursued a more gentler and kinder understanding of God as life, as light, as love, as a presence, and as a power. And it is here that misperceptions are timely to be cleared, especially misperceptions of God as a power that you can demand to correct everything in your life. God is a presence, and within the principles of that presence acting, there are powers that become obvious as they demonstrate the presence of God. I seek, in preparations for the resurrection conclave that is coming, and what seeks to be given and offered to each of you, I seek this evening a deep conversation on the subject of healing, the principles of healing, spiritual healing, which itself is a misnomer. Because if you are to understand everything we review this evening, then can you take a leap with me? Can you lift yourself to the next plateau and realize ultimately there is no such thing as God healing, God miracles, God's supply? Ultimately, our conversation must lead us, and beyond an intellectual awareness, it must lead us to a place of deep release. That there is only God. And if there is a miracle, if there is a demonstration, if there is appearance of things that improve, it is because the presence of God is fully present. With the realization that God, as the true nature of your consciousness, that long has sought fulfillment and expression in each and every one of you, requires not you to come along and advise God of what is required in your life. I assure you, precious hearts, that when the Master Jesus was upon the earth, and aware one day that the multitudes had grown, he had been teaching all day, thousands had gathered, far from towns, and out in the plains where he could gather large crowds. The hour was late. The teachings had gone on into 8 o'clock in the evening. And the disciples came to the Master and said, Master, the hour is late. These people have not been fed. They have traveled miles from towns to hear the good word. What are we going to do? What are we going to do, Master? How are we going to feed these people? There is enough only here for ourselves and your family. And the Master said, set up the table and bring before me what you have. Now, it may be convenient, it may be intellectually understanding to say that God manifested, or that Jesus manifested the baskets of fishes and bread that came ultimately to feed all the people. Is this really what Jesus did? Or is it a greater truth that Jesus went into a deep spiritual contact? Jesus made contact with God in those moments. And that is, he made that contact with God that God manifested itself as everything that was necessary in the moment. Requiring to feed several thousand people, that was already in Jesus' consciousness. Ultimately, are each of you ready to hear the highest truth? Must we labor through further challenges, through further sufferings, the things that you yourself delay by having misperceptions? Must we labor through these things, or are we willing to realize that in this plateau of consciousness and awakening and resurrection, that all we really need to do, now that we have freed ourselves of the heresy of superstitious religious beliefs, of heaven and hell and a judgmental God and all of this, is there really anything else to do other than to get God and leave it at that? Do we minimize the power of healing, the power of supply? When we seek God to manifest as a miracle, as employment, as supply, and all the things that life seeks to demand on each of us. In this state of your awakening, are you illumined enough to understand that at this plateau of awakening, and all plateaus and all hills you've climbed and all valleys you've passed through, some of which have not always been the most pleasant, they have all been necessary for a very succinct moment of consciousness within each of you, and only you can determine whether you are ready for that succinct moment and ready for a new kind of homework, where you realize God is. And because God is, all that I need to get is God. Let us take a deep breath. And let us view into some of the principles. God is life. God is love. God is light. God is the 7 oracles of love manifesting. God is supply. God is health. God is perfect employment. God is the artistry of music and song and art itself. God is the intelligence that is acting. What is required? An invention, food, an intelligence, contacts. What is required? Before you met me again, a sun was very much in your world, already lining up those who would make contact with this messenger, those in which this messenger would make contact to help him become more further God realized. A sun was already in this world, watching some of God's teachers that were glimpsing some of the principles that could be applied. And when those principles were applied, there was a demonstration. Just like Jesus, there was a demonstration of fish and all the bread the followers required. Deep breath. You have heard truths, and they have lined up like little intellectual gems within your minds. It is time to weave these gems, weave these pearls together. with a deep realization. Not that you have wasted time, not that you have lost time, but rather that all effort that you have made thus far begs you to let go and let God, that is the true nature of your consciousness, express through your mind, through your heart, your feelings, the very elements of your body, without being imposed upon. How the human and how even the spiritually awakened impose upon God. God, do this, God, do that. Meanwhile, I will carry on in my daily life and have a mind that is compromised. Express myself through a mind and a feeling side of life that is handicapped. Meanwhile, while I continue this, God be my supply. God be the miracle here. God serve me. Are we not making a servant out of God? And yet is not God greater than the sum total of all of us, even those two of us who are the individualizations of infinite light and infinite love that always seeks manifestation? And that light and that love is so grand, so supreme, so orchestral in its intimate desire for form. The formless has an intimate desire for form, that the formless nature of mind, the formless nature of heart, of love, and all its intimacy in seeking to know, to feel, to touch itself, created its first individualizations. And we come to you because a little planet called Earth is in so much trouble. And the people will cause further suffering on this planet until the people get God. But you can never get God if you feel that God is a vengeful God. You will never get God if you have core perceptions that you do not even know against the Father, and you knew these things and you have cleared these things. And you will never get God if you have core perceptions against God the Mother, the divine feminine, the love of this universe, in which those core perceptions are hidden underneath the basement of your feeling side of life, of which we are going to clear this April. And the way that we are going to do this shall grow within each of you a love that you can hold for one who has been here on your earth physically, tangibly, even more recently than I have, the precious Mother Mary. Such strides we shall seek to accomplish this year. Little reviews of the awakened truth that we know. God is light, God is love, God is life, God is everything, God is eternal, God is immortal, God is omniscient, God is omnipresent, God is omnipotent, just for a starters. Just for a starters. And if God is all of that, and this is a truth, a story yet seeks to be told and unfolded in each of you. If all these things be truth waiting to be realized and actualized, what delayeth my course that is before me, other than to get God? And if I have God and God is everything, will not everything in my consciousness become God realized? Do I need to ask God to heal my daughter, to find me a partner in this lonely path I live on earth? Do I really need God and ask for money to get through Christmas this year? Are we ready to take a huge leap in consciousness? To weave all the pearls together? But we cannot find a thirst that is satisfied if we only glimpse intellectual awareness, illumining ideas. All of those things must find rapid release into the heart. And it is only there as they find rapid release into the heart and realizations that are deepening, and the measurement of those realizations are expanding every day. And as that happens, where are the few little droplets that we begin to experience, that we know we have found that path without ever being derailed again, without ever sabotaging again? Where is that first droplet beyond awakening? It's the feeling. It's a sigh, it's a release, it's a breath, it's a feeling that you have released yourself from all the fears that come with human life, all the concerns. It is a letting go. It is a knowing that all the things, all the books you've studied, all the illumination, all the enlightenment, where I am, God is, and where I am, and where God is, I am. Now that's something to achieve. That's something to get. And if that principle is achieved as an experience, will not in the realization of that experience, will not everything in a moment be made whole and perfect? God is everything and a whole realm of perfection. I remember the story. It was the year 1956. A son was checking in on your messenger number one, who was a little boy, in the events that were about to happen. And he was watching very closely some of the God temporary teachers on the planet at that time. A son came home one day and he told me the story of a salesman. Like all salesmen, they were made to believe by their employers that if you make 10 telephone calls, 10 outreaches, you'll average 1 success. And if you make 20 telephone calls, 20 outreaches, you'll have 2 successes. This was the average back in the day, I suppose. And the son came home one day in 1956, and he told me the story of this man who had this amazing epiphany that all he needed was God. But not the God of lies that is found in the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The God that is found in the tree of life. That this young salesman realized one day that all that he needed was God. That was it. And so for the first hour of his day, this is all that he sought, was to make contact. To make contact with the presence of God that he felt as a principle he could increase in himself. A presence of God that would be within him, beside him, around him, and above him. And a realization that that was a principle that he could increase in measure. by every precious moment that he sought, every effort moment to make contact. And so he dedicated an hour of every day. Sometimes he'd read some spiritual literature, other times he'd pray in the silence, other times he'd meditate. Then he'd go back into applying the principles again. Sometimes this would go on for 20, 30 minutes, and there it was, the deep release, a feeling that all is well, a release from all the fears and concerns and all the toils and snares that come with the outer life. And once that feeling came, that release, did this salesman move into that place? And did he whisper to him, deep within himself, glorify yourself through this life you have given me. Come and glorify yourself. I seek not the things of the outer world. Those come naturally with life. I seek only to deepen my relationship, my contact with you. And then he would reflect, he would go over the principles. Where I am, God is, and where God is, I am. There is no separation. We are one. Metaphysical principles taught through centuries, but principles that he knew only his mind knew. For the very hills and dales towards his heart were too high and too low, and that truth that where I am, God is, and where God is, I am, had not become a feeling in which sudden rapture there was a letting go and releasing. And knowing that all was well, that God was present. Even a feeling that he gave himself, God was on the job. And then suddenly, he was offered a more attractive sales position. It just happened. He just happened to be in the place that the offer came to him. This new company that the salesman worked for, the principles of this company were a little more daring. Not every 10 phone calls you make trying to get a sell. No. With this product and our means of marketing, for every 5 phone calls you make, you will get 1 sell. The story ends this way. This young man, this young salesman, within 3 months was managing this company. It wasn't every 5 phone calls that he got a sale. Do you understand this conversation? It was that it became for every 1 phone call, he got 10 sales. Because the word went out. And people were calling him. And all he did was get God. God was on the job. God is all-knowing. God is all-loving. God is all-intelligent. God is all-powerful. God is all-present. Deep breath. And I'll bring you back to that. We must not confuse. In fact, we must find the linkage between the art of decreeing and commanding God and realizing that God ought to be only sought to be gotten, to be realized. We must find the linkage because they do link together. And for now, let us know that ye are asked to command and demand because of all the nonsense that yet lurks within yourself. that ye are asked to command and demand your own divine nature, which is the individualization of God. You are asked to realize that if the river isn't flowing, that you have dammed up that river of all good things yourself. And maybe thou shalt learn the ancient art of sacred decree and command from your own God nature the release of those things, because those things are not trapped upstairs. What is keeping God from manifesting the things you require that you enter into decree is in the deep psychology of your own being that has created obstacles to those natural flow. So we must raise our awareness of the ancient art of decree, and while doing this, let us go back now. Let us remember all the virtuous metaphysical truths that we have studied. And let us ask ourselves, is it time to apply those principles? Here, heaven and earth meet and merge. The inner, and when I say heaven, I speak of the divine mind of God. And when I say earth, I speak of Virgo, the feminine element. So expand yourselves. Now, as I said earlier, God is light, God is love, God is a presence, God is a power. Those are principles waiting for you to remember, to stay conscious. But shall we go to the top of the tree? Are you ready to go to the top of the tree and realize God is a presence? And that presence comes with principles waiting to be actualized. If that be the truth, there must be a mind, a body, and a feeling side of life that is friendly to those principles. And many of those principles you have found, and studied, and have awakened to, which means now you can take a deep breath. And realize, if God is everything, even the creator of that which becomes energy manifest, do I really need to get anything other than God? If God is all-knowing, and God is all-loving, and God is everything, and I get God, will not God simply be the perfecting activity as something that doesn't have to be told to do, but something that just naturally unfolds within my consciousness? And you might say, well, yes, but what about my mother? What about my daughter? Is not your mother and your daughter in your consciousness? Are you not aware of them? God will act everywhere in your awareness. The big question that I ask and I sense, the time has come. And that is, are you ready to know that you are still approaching everything in all matters of improving life from a human octave, from a human perspective? Desperate for a miracle, desperate for employment, desperate for a healing, desperate for money, desperate for relationship. Yet all those things is given under the title everything. God is everything. All those things just naturally flow. Whether it's money in the bank, an opportunity for a job, relationship, healing of the body, those things happen naturally. And we do not have to direct God as if God is there to serve us, but to rather to get God and let God do what God already does, and that is a constant state of expressing perfection everywhere, all the time. Have not the people of earth lived without God? The true God, life, love, light, everything, and all the principles that God uses to govern this universe, is there not evidence that the people of earth have lived without this God? I wait your response. Is there not enough evidence?
Yes.
Then whom of the people of earth will be the first to get God? Well, that is your destiny. It is a covenant that you have signed. And whether it happens this century or next century or this life or the next life, I am aware that absolute honesty before thy glorious presence is required and is required. That choice making is over. Those were choices and things you might have asked 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago and said, no, not this life, the next life. But that hour cometh not any longer. If you have God expressing, if you have made contact, that presence grows in you. And every time every day you come back, you deepen the contact, you spiritualize your being, and you are upon a new path. That path in which you have arrived now in liberating God, and God being the presence that goeth before you and doeth all things. God be the presence that goeth before you and doeth all things. Do you think that God needs you with your little checklist and say, now God go do this and God go do that? Are we ready to understand? And we did not do it purposefully. It comes with the spiritual education. You cannot be awakened any further until we take a deep breath and we have an OMG moment, where we realize, oh my goodness, I'm commanding God around. I'm treating God like a servant. Is not God greater? Is not God the creator of this universe? Is not God everything? If God is the only presence, power, and intelligence that is acting through this earthly embodiment, do I not have everything? Do I not start to create a sacred space within my being where the sacred words of the prophet can be actualized in my life? Why do you toil for your life? Even the lilies in the field do not toil and worry like you do. And yet in all seasons every care and consideration is given that they may come forth in all their beauty and fragrance. Are we really ready to place our hand up and within, that all I really need to do is get God, increase my contact with God, remind myself of the principles? Why would I want to remind myself of the principles? because I have lived my life forgetting the principles of God, and therefore I have inadvertently set aside those principles and not allowed those principles that are universal to be freely acting in my life. So I review some of the principles. If it is a truth that in these sacred passages, a Christa Messiah, and all the passages now to that state of beingness, that these passages may be infiltrated by the presence of God. What is there for us to get? Why am I being delayed? May we ask that question honestly? And may each one apply, and knowing what is going on in their life in a very personal and intimate way as to how to apply that. Why am I being delayed? Is it possible? Can we breathe into this? Is it possible that we are being delayed because we can no go any further in this exploration, in this journey? We can make no further progress until we see things clearly. Because we know, because we're awake. We know God is not that judgmental God. God is everything. God is life. God is love. God is health. God is supply. God is all these things. Give me 1,000,000 and 1,000,000 more, and I'll put God is in front of each one of them. Now shall we languish and toil in the labor of time as it is measured on this earth, going after God to do all those things, or shall we seek God alone? Knowing that if any of those things are in our consciousness, then the realization and actualization of God will manifest those things. God in action. I am in action. Are you ready? Is it possible that you could say, this requires total honesty, it requires illumination? I feel every one of you are capable of being absolutely honest with yourself. I know every one of you are illumined enough. And I also know the time of energy, what you have invested in your state of spiritualizing and becoming. I know the passages you will go through. And I know whether those passages are going to have bumps or whether grace is the way of the now and the way of the future. Can you reason? Can you even put it in words that are friendly as long as they're honest? The only reason can you rise above your humanity and all the things that are in your world and say to yourself clearly, the only reason that I have been delayed in areas of my life is because I have not sought God for God itself. I have not been running this through my being. It has not been a constant. But that constant which invites each of you to a new place now, there's only one thing for you to get, and that is God. You see, this is a very big yet simple word. and you've cleared yourself of all the superstitions around the God word. You are wise and you are illumined enough to, if someone come along and say, well, tell me of this God, that you know that, well, God is, and I can only tell you about God. And I can say to you that God is eternal, and God is immortal, and God is life, and God is joy, and God is health, and God is supply, and on and on and on and on. God is. And if God is all of these things, is there really anything else to get at this time other than God? God is the wisdom you need in each and every moment. God is the knowingness to whether you give the child the vaccine. God is the power that even if you take the vaccine and there is some harmful, if God is present, can that vaccine harm? See? Are you ready to face yourselves? How much of our conversations are bent by the human? Why do you waste your time discussing the merits of a vaccine being healthy or not healthy? That is human conversation, and you are welcome to it. But your conversation shall anchor that state of consciousness as the only state of consciousness that is acting. And therefore, I must ask of each of you, I must inquire of you, what state of consciousness is acting in your world? It is a God liberated or a state of consciousness that is compelled to be squeezed and squeezed into the theatrics of the human and its little mind and its little heart. I know what I seek. I know that I and you have friends that come to conclave. I know that the mighty Saint Germain will greet you and greet you and greet you in conclave. I know Jesus the Christ will come, and I know that I shall lean heavily on the evening rose, the great goddess Himalaya, and begging of her and commanding her that the very elements of your body release in a deep sigh all that is imprisoned, God, from being fully realized and liberated through your life. And for this, cooperation on your part is so required. Over several years, such focus has been upon the power of command, ancient decree, find your voice. And I have been saying for 1.7 years, this must be balanced with the inner activity. The inner activity is getting God. So the God becomes so strong in you, your contact with God, you know, before you go out into your world every day, you have made contact. And at the end of that contact, before you go on about your day, there is a feeling that all is well. A release from the fears and concerns. And your contact with God that day has increased. You go on about your day. And this day is better than it was yesterday, because the measurement of God contact that you are carrying is not something you only realize, it is being actualized in you. And you are carrying the presence of God within you and beside you and around you. And you are even awakened to your own inner God nature. You see, in this conversation, it has not dawned on you yet what I am about to reveal to you. The God that I speak of is the Trinity. It is the infinite I am from heights of heavenly realms above. It is the individualized I am, your own true God natures. And it is the impersonal I am that is found in the fabric of a leaf. It is the Trinity, all working together lovingly in the allness of one. One what? One what? One life. The leaf registers the life of God within you and is strong. And in relationship with you will respond to anything in your consciousness. And you, God realized, carrying the presence, strengthened every day of God. In a moment, imagine the loveliest butterfly playing upon the leaf, and instantly the butterfly is there. Day after day, as you come to realize there is only one thing for me to get. Do I think I really need to get the money together to attend conclave? Do I really think I need to get the money together so I can get my own subscriptions and keep studying the laws of life? When is it time to stop being human? Only you decide. We got God. But this is something that can't be just in the head. It has to be in the heart. And the first place that you are lavishly and generously willing that God announce itself in the very elements of your body. Yet how God has been marginalized, and how I have shared, and Mother Mary has shared, and the Queen of Light have shared, and Magdalene has shared with Mother Teresa, and how even in her cause and advocacy, how God was marginalized because of the state of consciousness that she maintained. And a willingness within her consciousness to denounce materiality, and so forth and so forth and so forth. I do not need to speak to you of all the causes within Mother Teresa's consciousness, but can say to you, and I hope that you can reach and realize that even the Magdalene has spoken with Teresa. And many of them have come to her and said, Teresa, don't you realize that God was strong in you, all the energy around you. But you marginalize God because God could act in your life only according to what is in your consciousness. So what have you done? You have made sure that you have gone to one of the greatest schools and begin to illumine your consciousness and see how there are poisons that have entered and shackles that have kept your heart from beating and liberating the presence of God. You've done these things. And you are ready. You are ready. That is, the glory of God shall seek to express through the 33 passages of resurrection this conclave, as the glory of God seeks to express through those passages in such a live way that you take that into your homes, that one passage of those 33 passages is just one principle of many. That as you grow God within you and beside you and around you and above you, there is a presence that is taking care of things even before you knew there was a need to take care of those things. Then there are those who will say, well, Mother Akasha, this is wonderful. I intellectually understand what you are saying. Seems to me that you're asking for another hour of my time that I might get God. Because once I get up in the morning, my day starts pretty quickly. And this is where it becomes very personal. I don't dare advise you. as to how you map your time, or whether you choose to turn your television or radio sets off, or whether you choose to get up an hour earlier so that you have time to get God, to make sure that before you go out into the day, before the pressures of the world are on you, you make your God contact. Some days the contact might be so fast because you just happen to be in the friendliest state of beingness for it, and it just unfolds, and you're filling and filling, and you're releasing, and you are so full of God. And there's a sense and urgency. Get up, go on about your day. No, I am with you. Other times you might have to work at it for an hour. You meditate, you pray, you read some sacred passages. You hear me speak to you, whatever it takes to increase. Morning time cometh. O God, the mighty I am, how I seek to make contact with you. To know that thou art the only presence. And everything else is a subcreation of the human. Great God presence, I know that you are the presence that beats my heart, the very life of my embodiment on earth. Metaphysically, intellectually, in my awakened state, I even understand that where I am, God is, and where God is, I am, because God is life, and life beats my heart. And I seek my realization of this to increase. I seek to actualize this great truth because you, God, desire this truth of your being to be actualized, how you have loved and thirsted intimately to manifest thy beingness in energy, substance, form. And you have given me this form. In truth, if I am to acquire and get you, God, the little me is completely removed from this equation. In these days, God, I am speaking to you, but I know that you are not some foreign entity outside of my being. I know that you are a presence that is beating my heart right now, so I know that you are hearing and listening to my wild communication with you this morning. I seek to get God, that my spiritual contact may increase, knowing that as I go on about this day, that thy presence is within me and around me and beside me and above me. That you are everything. Oh God, shall I, in these days, as I continue my great revolution, shall I seek you consciously for the supply that I require, the perfect employer, the perfect relationship that I so desire? Shall I seek you to do all these things as if you were here to serve me? No, I have grown. And the next chapter of my life invites me only to get you. And the more I got of you, the more I carry your presence, the more I am filled. You are the presence that is everything. Whatever comes before my consciousness as I go about my day, you are the answer, you are the solution, you are the right person, you are the contact, you are the money in the bank, you are the opportunity, you are the healing, you are the miracle. And I just go through this list just to remind myself of principles acting. I may, when I enter into my daily decrees, command and demand the power of sacred fire love blaze through me. And I am speaking to my own individualized God self that is given to me by you, our Creator, to be my treasure house of infinite resources. And I have jammed up. I have not allowed those resources to flow through this outer life because I fell asleep like everyone else. And now awakening that you, God, have given me the divine replication of thyself. You have given me my own individualized presence that I can lean upon, that I can call to. And because doubt and fear and all the things of the human have registered in my mind, I know that I've got to find my voice and get up and command and demand the release of this avalanche of divine inheritance that comes from my own individualized God presence. But I commune as God is the Trinity, Mother, Father, God, my own individualized God presence. The God presence that can be all around me, that is the very fabric, energy that is instantly raised. If you're going to instantly raise the energetics around your physical body, then you must become very good friends with the impersonal I am that is within all energy, within all the powers of nature and the forces of the elements, within the atmosphere, so they can become electrified. So you see, precious hearts, the inner activity of getting God and the outer activity of commanding your own individualized presence, these two things must come together, weave together. Isn't it wonderful that you have a contact? You have wisdom available. You have the manifestation of everything that is required. I need is removed from your being and world. Let me be only God realized and actualized, realizing the truth. At this place in my journey is to realize all that I have to do is get God. Now, what follows when I got God? Demonstration, actualization. Jesus healing, performing miracles, loaves of bread, baskets of fishes. These are demonstrations. God in action. That's the actualization. What will you do when there are those in the world who are being taken down so rapidly, and they know that you are on a spiritual path and that your path is increasing and your spiritual presence is increasing, and they will seek you? You had better make sure that you have one presence that is acting in you, beside you, and around you. And that presence can be the healing presence of your daughter. It can be a healing presence of someone on the other side of the world. If any of you become, and this, understand, is not done in a second. Like all things, it is a journey where every day you have your getting God before you go out upon your day. And the conversation can even change every day. You massage that conversation. God, I am here to get you. I'm not here to influence you. Why would I want to influence you? You're everything. I'm not here to convince you to do something you're not already doing. That is one that you miss. Huge. I'm not here to get you to do something that you're not already doing. If I'm not enjoying what you're already doing, is it you or me? It's me, because I am not practicing the principles that bring me back into the flow. Dear God, I seek not to influence you. I seek to know the truth, to get you to be filled with thy presence, and to even know that thou art, that is a principle acting, thou art power, thou art intelligence, thou art supply, thou art a miracle, food, wine, bread on the table. These are principles of God acting. But I seek to come before you, God, and know that you are a presence. And I start by remembering what I learned in the beginning, that there is but one presence that knows only perfection, and that is God. There is seemingly another presence, and it is the human presence that knoweth only imperfection. I have made my choice. I seek to know thee, I come before thee, to be filled. I seek that the measure of God that I am carrying every day increase. Every day becomes more. And as I do this increasing of getting God, this will show, I will see the evidence in my world. And there are those who will see the evidence in you before you will even see it yourself. I remind you, beloved hearts, although there were influences that were at play, when your messenger here received a number of strange phone calls back in the 1990s. Are you Akasha? What? You're Akasha, yes? If you are, I will meet you at the crystal store. You've heard this story many times. Well, I'm not Akasha. You are Akasha or you're not? Of course, he didn't understand the bigger part of that question. You are all Akasha. You are all life, love, everything. And you know the story that when this crystal store existed in Granville Island, that your messenger finally agreed to show up at this crystal store. And there was this stranger dressed like someone who'd been in the hills for too long. And your messenger said, oh no, I hope it's not him. And certainly he walks right up to him with a knapsack and pulls a sacred stone out of his bag and gives it to the messenger. What do I do with it? You know what to do with it. No, I don't, said the messenger. Stop saying that. You know what to do. So the messenger who was carrying the crystal stone knew that the messenger, your messenger, had within him a presence that he himself was not recognizing. Did you follow that? And so the crystal messenger simply had to say, relax then, focus, and the truth that I see in you will reveal itself in this stone. And then you know the story about how the stone moved. and a promise, and a voice spoke from the stone and said, "We are coming. We are coming." The voice represented the whole spiritual hierarchy. So sometimes there will be others who recognize the presence in you. And the many stories of Saint Germain, and the characters within those stories. And some of those characters said, "Well, what do? I don't know what to do." Yes, you do. You know what to do. Life will afford each of you opportunities where there will be those in those circumstances in life where life says, yes, you do know what to do. And yet it might not be right there in your view. And all you can do in that moment is do two things that you are not used to. Focus and surrender at the same time. Focus in on what is before you and surrender. And then the surge of God presence and God power rises in each of you. All-knowing, all-powerful, recognizes no presence unto itself. A son told me in the year 873, a student in the Himalayan Mystery School, about this point in the conversation, the student stood up. Maitreya was the teacher that day. And the student said, "Then may I be right by saying that God is a very selfish God?" Because Maitreya had just said, was speaking of God as one presence that recognizes no presence outside of itself. Hand goes up. Well, Maitreya is thinking to himself, this is one foolish or one brave kid. And the young man rises and says, "Am I not correct to say then, according to what you are saying, that God is a very selfish God?" Maitreya responded, "If expressing in a state of perfection all the time and refusing to accept imperfection is selfish, then by God, it's my kind of selfishness." Beloved hearts, are you with me on this conversation?
Yes. Yes.
Because God is the presence that beats your heart. God is life. God is love. You have freed yourself. My goodness, the decades and the lifetimes that you have freed yourself, sought to free yourself from the snares and pitfalls of superstitious religious beliefs. And yet there is always the tempter to tell God to manifest as supply, as healing over here. Serve me, God. And everyone faces this. Everyone who takes this all-important path. And when you're over the hill on the other side of this, and in every day there are signs and there are demonstrations that are occurring, when you're over the hill on the other side and time has passed, every one of you will have amazing epiphanies as why that was a journey that you had to go through without realizing, oh my goodness, am I not demanding God to be my servant, to be my miracle, to be my supply, to be my perfect employer? There's purpose to this. Yet the purpose and deep insight of it must be an epiphany. Once you're on the other side of the hill and every day you are increasing with God. That increase of God becomes the omniscience of why this happens to all of you. And that must be a very personal omniscience, a very personal awareness that you can delicately weave it through all the experiences that took place in your life. Was God present in all those experiences? Oh, be careful. Oh, be careful. Be careful you do not lean too heavy and think, does that mean that God created those experiences? God creates nothing in the human octave of imperfection. But there's a lace, a silver lining of God that goeth with you everywhere in the universe because you are alive, because life beats your heart. And that silver lining can never get away from you. Ever. Let us take a few precious moments and let us get God. And let us value from this day forth, and most ideally sometime in the early morning, before the demands of the outer life are upon you, that you seek to sit quietly as we shall do now, with one great desire, and that is to get God, because it is why you are here. You were sent forth and lived long time without what sent you forth. Let us realize that all that we seek is to get God. May each of us quicken the journey of deep realization that all the needs and demands, they will all be looked after, every one of them. And therefore, together this moment, let us get God. As we breathe deep into our hearts with the great realization, I am free of all superstitious beliefs about God. God is life, God is love, God is light. God is a presence, and a presence that beats my heart. God is everywhere. God is omnipresent. Whither could I flee from God when God is everything? In this sacred moment of getting God, I seek reflection upon the principles of God in action. That where I am, God is, and where God is, I am, because of the omnipresent nature of God. And God is the abundance of all good things. And all things that I can reflect upon, I remind myself of the natural activity of God. God is life. God is love. God is energy. God is supply. God is wisdom acting. God is miracles. God is food. God is everything. I seek not to get God to manifest those things. I seek only to manifest the ever-expanding, growing measurement of God, to increase my contact with God. I seek to be filled. that when I go before this day, I know that there is only one presence that knows only perfection, a presence that always seeks to glorify itself. And in these precious moments, my realization is that where God is, I am, and where I am, God is, inseparable and one. Therefore, I release, I open every precious space of my being, that this realization may be actualized as a deep, meaningful demonstration of God in action. Mighty presence of life, mighty I am, come forth in greater measure, in me, through me, as me. One glorious presence. And if you start your precious moments in that way, precious hearts, and allow the deep and voluntary breaths and a deep, deepening relaxing, and allow waves of that. And when you are ready to get up and to go upon your day, you will find that there is a change that is taking place from the inside outside. You will find that you're approaching things differently, that you're looking at things through a different and more clearer viewing glass. You will find that the way that you put thoughts and group them together in your mind, that it's changing automatically. You will find a release from the pressures of worry and stress, a magic presence upon you. You will find that all things seem to come together throughout the course of your day. And you will begin to observe that the God contact is increasing in you. And if it increases in you, it is a presence that is expanding out from you, and it will draw to you the right people, and it will keep away from you the wrong people. It will draw to you the people that love your dream and will find 1,000 other people to expand that dream. And if you remind yourself in your reviews, because in your getting God, you take a few moments to review principles, and then you go back into the silence. God is the very health of my body. Let me not seek to demonstrate God as the health of my body. Oh, no, I don't seek to demonstrate that. I'm putting the cart in front of the horse again. No, I seek to remember God is supply, God is health, God is life, God is medicine, God is invention. Those are principles of God in action. So let me not seek to tell God how to go into action. Let me seek to be filled with God and trust that God will go into action in everything that is in my consciousness. Everything. And once everything and everyone and all that is within your consciousness and your outer world, which includes your consciousness, is taken care of, then your consciousness will expand, because God will seek to take care of much more in your world. This world is entering a desperate hour of needing God. And the Son will explain to you after a break of why that is so and how that is so. I encourage each of you from this day forward that in the morning, before breakfast, after breakfast, sometimes nice to get a little bit of food in the belly and wake the head up if you're the messenger. But before you go on about the daily tasks, to take on a new attitude. Now, before I give my attention to all the demands of the outer world, I have but one thing to do, and that is to get God. So let me settle myself down, relax. Let me remind myself of some principles that I have awakened to, then surrender. Invite God as the only presence acting. Stay in that surrendering place a while. Then review some more principles. Then let go and let God reveal itself as the only presence. Keep doing this, waves. Some days it might be an hour. Some days you might fill up so quickly. You might increase in God so fast because you had the right state of mind. But not just the right state of mind, the right state of beingness. If I got God, I got everything. And then to allow yourself the preciousness of life. That time is not a thief, but time is generous in giving you a gratuitous manifestation that basically, as you view everything that's taking place, your attitude, much like Mr. Joel Goldsmith taught in The Infinite Way, God is obviously on the job. Some days it will only require minutes. Other times you just can't get into the feeling of it. Who knows what was going on? You have to read a few spiritual passages, put on some spiritual music, put on some essential oils, smell a lily. Everything to try to capture that feeling, to get into it, where you're remembering the truth, and relax and let the truth reveal the ever-increasing presence of God. Some days it'll be 2-3 minutes. Another day you'll work at it for an hour, and finally it's there, and whoosh, you're filled. But either way, whether it's minutes, 20 minutes, or an hour, when you set this into motion, you have your priorities. Then your day must unfold. Opportunity after opportunity. What you would call miracles after miracles. Pieces of information that you needed, suddenly people coming to you with that information. Opportunities that weren't there before, suddenly showing up. Means to expand your businesses, because you see, you can't make God exclusive. You can't marginalize God. God will treat everything in your consciousness. If you have within your consciousness a business that you desire to expand, then that is what God will do, but you have to liberate God and get God back into your consciousness to do those things without telling God what to do. Every day is an increase. But whether you get that increase in an hour of making effort, or whether other days it's there in a few minutes, that depends upon your daily stuff and the things you might have moved through while your body was sleeping at night. This is not the first. Forgive me, this is not the last you will be hearing of this. I hope this evening has stirred. When you go on about your day, you do the best you can. But if you keep coming back to get God, the best you can do increases every day. Every day. Purpose to all things. There is a reason that there are less miracles taking place in your world than a short 50 years ago. 50, 60 years ago, there were more miracles taking place in your world. Those are all mini interventions. Those are all little things to encourage you in the way. Here's a miracle. Keep trying. But not now. This world needs God. And it is given you to get God and release God into this world. God knows how to take care of everything. God bless you, precious hearts. I thank you. We love and bless you, Mother Akasha. We hold you dearly in our heart. Deep breath. Thank you, precious hearts.